Have you ever imagined that texts lost for centuries could rewrite the way we understand the oldest stories of humanity? Unpublished biblical fragments discovered in the Egyptian desert have shed new light on events described thousands of years ago. But what exactly do these manuscripts reveal about Adam, Eve, and their journey after the fall? And, above all, how might these narratives transform our understanding of God's purpose for humanity? Welcome. Here, we explore the path of faith and seek to understand the mysteries God has left us. My name is Light, or as many call me, L. Today, we will walk together on another journey of spiritual discovery. Prepare to immerse yourself in a story full of enigmas, surprising revelations, and theological challenges. Throughout this video, we will uncover the secrets of the recently discovered fragments and the texts known as the Books of Adam and Eve. We will explore alternative narratives about creation and the fall, the challenges faced by the first human couple, and the deeper meaning of their spiritual struggle. Stay with us until the end, because what we will reveal may transform how you view your faith and relationship with the Creator. Archaeology has surprised us once again by revealing unpublished biblical fragments rediscovered after more than 60 years of searching. Have you noticed how archaeology reminds us that God's story with humanity is not static? It is alive, dynamic, and always has something new to teach us. These findings have gained worldwide attention for bringing previously unknown details about ancient narratives. Found in a remote region of the Egyptian desert, the fragments challenge traditional interpretations of the scriptures. Each unearthed piece carries an echo of the past, transporting us to a time when myths and beliefs shaped entire civilizations. These discoveries revive profound questions about humanity's origins and God's purpose for mankind. Among the discovered texts are the so-called Books of Adam and Eve, which record events after the couple's expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Unlike Genesis, these texts offer surprising and even shocking details. These details make us reflect. Could the view we hold today be only a part of a greater truth still unfolding? Originally written in Arabic and translated over centuries into various languages, this book offers a new perspective on humanity's fall. The text presents a darker world filled with challenges and temptations faced by Adam and Eve. The fragments found are part of an even older manuscript, believed by experts to have been written in the early first millennium. Many of the themes in these texts echo oral traditions that predate Christianity, suggesting that the story of Adam and Eve was shaped and reshaped by various cultures. This highlights how the biblical narrative has evolved over time, influenced by diverse religious and philosophical currents. The discovery was made during a series of archaeological excavations in areas historically connected to ancient Egypt. The region where the fragments were found is known for housing religious texts such as the Dead Sea Scrolls. Experts believe that the desert's dry conditions contributed to the preservation of the materials, protecting them against time and decay. The academic enthusiasm is palpable. Many scholars are eager to analyze the complete text and its theological implications. One of the central questions raised by these fragments is, what was Adam and Eve's original role in the divine plan? And how does the vision presented in these texts differ from that found in Genesis? These are questions that promise to transform our understanding of the scriptures. With the recovery of these texts, new light is shed on the sacred story. More than just recounting ancient events, they challenge our understanding of God's role, human nature, and the relationship between Creator and creation. This discovery not only fuels theological debates but also brings us closer to our spiritual roots. The Sepher Munna, or Book of the Image, is an enigmatic text that many believe holds secrets about creation and the Garden of Eden. Little known outside academic circles, it offers a unique perspective on the narrative of Adam and Eve. The book is thought to be part of a Jewish mystical tradition, exploring concepts such as the structure of the universe and humanity's role within it. It challenges linear interpretations of Genesis, offering a more complex and symbolic prism. This ancient text describes the Garden of Eden not merely as a physical place but as a representation of spiritual states. According to the Sepher Munna, Eden was a convergence point between the divine and earthly realms. Adam and Eve were not just historical figures but archetypes of humanity, reflecting the internal struggles we all face between obedience and desire. Curiously, the text suggests that Adam and Eve's fall was part of a larger plan, not merely an accident. Have you ever thought about that? What if the fall, instead of being just a failure, was also an opportunity to rise stronger and more aware of our purpose? Rather than simply disobeying the Creator, they might have been guided onto a path that would reveal humanity's potential for redemption. This contrasts with the traditional interpretation of Genesis, where the fall is primarily seen as a tragedy. The idea that mistakes can be divine tools for learning is central to the Sepher Munna. Another fascinating aspect of the book is its description of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Instead of merely symbolizing disobedience, it is portrayed as a portal to self-awareness. By eating the fruit, Adam and Eve not only sinned but also opened a pathway for humanity to develop a deeper understanding of its nature. While this led to suffering, it also brought the capacity to love, create, and seek the divine. The Sepher Munna also addresses the serpent as a more complex symbol than simply an agent of evil. In this context, the serpent represents life's inevitable temptations and the need to face them wisely. This transforms the narrative into a reflection on free will and the consequences of our choices. For many scholars, the Sepher Munna not only complements Genesis but also broadens our understanding of God's purpose for humanity. It reminds us that biblical stories can be read on different levels, offering both practical and spiritual lessons. The books of Adam and Eve are texts that expand the biblical narrative, offering additional details about the life of the first couple after their expulsion from the Garden of Eden. Often classified as apocryphal, these books are not part of the traditional biblical canon. Yet, they have fascinated scholars and believers for centuries due to their rich and symbolic descriptions. Originally written in a Semitic language, their composition is believed to date back to the 1st century after Christ, reflecting much older oral traditions. Over the centuries, these texts were translated into various languages, including Greek, Latin, Arabic, and Ethiopian. Each translation brought nuances and interpretations that enriched the understanding of the narrative. The Ethiopian version, for instance, contains unique details absent in other translations, while the Greek version, known as the Apocalypse of Moses, offers a more symbolic approach. These differences show how the text was adapted to different cultural and religious contexts. The books of Adam and Eve address universal themes such as temptation, repentance, and redemption. They present Adam and Eve as deeply human figures, struggling to understand their new reality outside Eden. The narrative details their prayers, fasting, and laments, revealing an intimate connection between them and the Creator. These elements provide a significant contrast to Genesis, which is more concise and less emotional in its approach. Additionally, the texts explore the couple's relationship with Satan, who is portrayed as an active and manipulative figure. He constantly attempts to deceive and harm Adam and Eve, intensifying their spiritual struggle. This emphasis on Satan's role highlights the ongoing battle between good and evil, a message resonating across many religious traditions. Despite their exclusion from the biblical canon, the books of Adam and Eve influenced various Christian and Jewish traditions. They were widely read by communities in the Middle East and Africa, becoming an integral part of local spiritual practices. Their popularity testifies to their enduring impact and relevance to timeless questions of the human condition. Studying the books of Adam and Eve offers an opportunity to delve into the roots of spirituality and understand how the biblical narrative was shaped over time. These texts invite us to explore the challenges faced by the first human couple and reflect on our struggles and quest for meaning. The exclusion of the books of Adam and Eve from the biblical canon is a matter that intrigues many. Why were texts that offer so much context and depth to the Genesis story not included in the official Bible? The answer lies partly in how these texts were categorized and interpreted throughout history. From the early centuries of Christianity, religious leaders sought to define which writings were inspired by God and therefore worthy of canonization. The books of Adam and Eve were classified as apocryphal or pseudepigraphal, terms used to describe works of questionable authorship or containing ideas considered incompatible with official doctrine. While the content of the book has historical and spiritual value, its exclusion reflects the desire of religious leaders to establish a cohesive and theologically consistent set of scriptures. This decision, however, left out many texts that could enrich our understanding of biblical narratives. Another reason for the exclusion of these texts was their highly symbolic and, in some cases, controversial nature. The Book of Adam and Eve presents interpretations that differ significantly from the Genesis narratives, such as Satan's role and the challenges faced by Adam and Eve after the fall. These elements could provoke theological debates or even doubts among the faithful, something the early church sought to avoid while consolidating the Christian faith. Additionally, the emotional and detailed language of the books of Adam and Eve contrasts with the more objective and direct tone of Genesis. The emphasis on aspects such as Adam and Eve's repentance, their interactions with Satan, and their ongoing struggle for redemption presents a more human but perhaps less universal view of the story. This may have led biblical compilers to consider these texts less suitable for the official canon. Despite their exclusion, the books of Adam and Eve never entirely disappeared. They continued to be preserved by various communities, particularly in the Middle East and Ethiopia, where they were valued as sources of spiritual and moral teachings. Their survival attests to the impact these texts had, even outside the official canon. For modern readers, the exclusion of the books of Adam and Eve raises important questions about the process of forming the Bible. What was lost along the way? And what can these texts teach us today, in a world where issues of faith and humanity remain as relevant as ever? The story of temptation in the Garden of Eden is one of the Bible's most well-known narratives, but the books of Adam and Eve bring new perspectives that enrich our understanding. In this version, the serpent is not merely an agent of evil, but a more complex figure representing both external temptations and humanity's internal conflicts. This interpretation offers a broader view of the serpent's role in the fall. In the account of the books of Adam and Eve, the serpent speaks directly to Eve, appealing to her desire for knowledge and equality with the Creator. Unlike Genesis, where the serpent is seen as a deceiver, here it plays the role of an intellectual seducer, offering Eve a distorted view of the divine purpose. This approach humanizes Eve, portraying her as a curious and vulnerable figure but also strong in her search for answers. Moreover, the books of Adam and Eve highlight the emotions of Adam and Eve after the fall. While Genesis mentions that they realized their nakedness, these texts detail the shame and repentance they felt. This emphasis on human emotions makes the narrative more relatable for readers, who can see reflections of their own struggles and failures in Adam and Eve's experiences. Another interesting aspect is how Satan is portrayed in the books of Adam and Eve. He not only tempts Eve but also continues to pursue them after the fall, intensifying their trials. This view places temptation in a broader context, suggesting that the true challenge was not just the initial disobedience but the ongoing battle to overcome the influences of evil. This new perspective on temptation also leads us to reconsider the Creator's role in the narrative. He is not merely a judge but also a compassionate guide who offers Adam and Eve opportunities for redemption. This approach reinforces the message that, while the fall was a moment of great loss, it was also the beginning of a path of spiritual learning and growth. In the end, the books of Adam and Eve invite us to reflect on temptation as an inevitable part of the human condition. They show us that despite our failures, there is always room for redemption, and that the true test of faith lies in our ability to learn and grow from our experiences. The Cave of Treasures is described in the books of Adam and Eve as the place where the first human couple found shelter after being expelled from the Garden of Eden. Far from being a refuge, the cave symbolized a spiritual and emotional prison for Adam and Eve. Accustomed to Eden's abundance and beauty, they now faced a hostile world marked by darkness and desolation. The transition to this new environment was a profound shock, representing the weight of the consequences of their disobedience. Upon reaching the cave, Adam and Eve fell to the ground in despair, unable to fully comprehend their new reality. The rocky ground, the austere environment, and the absence of the Creator's tangible presence immersed them in sadness. This moment reveals the depth of their loss, not just physical but also spiritual. The Cave of Treasures, though humble, became the symbol of their journey of repentance and quest for reconciliation with God. The name Cave of Treasures seems contradictory but is rich in symbolism. According to the text, it was named so because it was a place where the first humans stored memories of their life in Eden. It was a space of memory but also of hope. Inside the cave, Adam and Eve kept items such as the gold, incense, and myrrh given by angels, symbols later associated with Christ's birth. These objects represented the promise of redemption that still lingered over them. Life in the cave was marked by fasting, prayer, and physical suffering. It is as if this cave represented the place where, in their pain, they learned the deeper meaning of faith. Sometimes, it is in our personal deserts that we find a true connection with God. Adam and Eve, who had never experienced hunger or thirst, now faced the challenges of survival. This new experience brought them closer to their humanity, allowing them to understand the fragility of their existence. The narrative emphasizes how this suffering was transformative, helping them build a deeper connection with the Creator. Despite all the pain, the cave also became the setting for moments of learning and overcoming. Adam, in particular, took on a leadership role, guiding Eve in her journey of repentance. Their continuous prayers reveal a genuine desire to restore communion with God, even in the face of adversity. This persistence shows how the location, though dark, became a space for spiritual growth. The Cave of Treasures was not just a physical shelter but a reflection of the human condition after the fall. It symbolized the weight of sin but also the possibility of redemption. During their stay in the cave, Adam and Eve learned to face their weaknesses, reaffirming the idea that even amidst darkness, the light of hope never extinguishes. In the books of Adam and Eve, the couple is not alone in their journey outside Eden. They frequently interact with supernatural beings, from angels sent by the Creator to demonic manifestations led by Satan. These interactions highlight the ongoing struggle between good and evil that permeates the narrative. For Adam and Eve, these encounters were constant reminders of their fall but also opportunities to reaffirm their faith. One of the most striking episodes is Satan's attempt to deceive Adam and Eve by transforming into enchanting maidens. The description of these maidens, emerging from the river and presenting themselves to the couple, is both fascinating and unsettling. Adam and Eve, dazzled by their beauty, questioned whether there was another world beyond what they knew. This moment symbolizes the temptations we face when confronted with the unknown and the need for spiritual discernment. On the other hand, angels also play a crucial role. Sent by the Creator, they appear during times of great difficulty to offer comfort and guidance. An example of this is the cherub's delivery of figs from the gates of Eden. Although Adam and Eve could no longer enter the garden, this gesture showed that the Creator still cared for them, reaffirming His mercy even after sin. Satan's presence is especially notable in the books of Adam and Eve. He does not stop at deceiving them in Eden but continues to pursue them relentlessly, trying to divert them from their path of repentance. These interactions reflect the spiritual battle we all face, emphasizing the need for vigilance and unwavering faith to resist evil forces. Beyond encounters with angels and demons, the books of Adam and Eve also explore the couple's connection with the Creator. Despite being separated from Eden, they still experience His presence through His words and actions. This reinforces the idea that even in our fallen state, God never abandons those who sincerely seek Him. These supernatural interactions offer a richer and more complex view of Adam and Eve's journey. They remind us that while life is full of challenges and temptations, there are also divine forces always ready to guide us back to the right path. This struggle between light and darkness remains a powerful lesson for all times. The books of Adam and Eve do not limit themselves to the story of the first couple but also explore the fate of their descendants, especially the children of Seth. Initially, Seth's descendants lived apart from Cain's, in a state of purity on Mount Hermon. This place, known as the Sacred Mountain, was a spiritual refuge where the Sethites worshipped the Creator and maintained a special connection with Him. However, this harmony was disrupted by the influence of Cain's descendants, who inhabited the valleys below. According to the narrative, Cain's daughters, known for their beauty and seduction, managed to lure the Sethites to the valley. Led by Gainan, a descendant of Cain, the Cainites used music, dance, and lust to corrupt Seth's children. This event marked the beginning of an era of moral decline. The union between Seth's descendants and Cain's resulted in the emergence of the Nephilim, described as mighty men or giants in Genesis. They were known for their strength and corruption, bringing turmoil and destruction to the earth. These events echo in the Book of Enoch and other ancient traditions, which describe the Nephilim as one of the main reasons for the flood. The Sethites' fall was not only physical but also spiritual. By mingling with the Cainites, they abandoned their principles and lost the Creator's favor. This event reflects human nature's fragility and how easily we can stray from our spiritual paths when exposed to negative influences. Gainan's role in this narrative is particularly intriguing. As the inventor of musical instruments and weapons of war, he symbolizes both human creativity and destructiveness. His deeds show how the ability to create can be used both to glorify God and to corrupt humanity. The story of Seth's descendants' fall and the rise of the Nephilim reminds us of the consequences of our choices and the importance of remaining faithful to divine principles. It highlights how even those living in harmony with God can be led astray if not vigilant, a lesson that resonates to this day. In the books of Adam and Eve, the matrimonial union of the first couple takes on profound and symbolic significance. After living outside Eden for 223 days, Adam and Eve were instructed by the Creator through His angels to formalize their marriage. This act was not merely a celebration, but also a way of reaffirming divine order in their lives. Given the context of repentance and suffering they had faced until then, marriage symbolized a new beginning, now aligned with God's will. The Creator sent 3 angels to formalize this union. Each brought a symbolic gift: gold, incense, and myrrh. These items, later associated with Christ's birth, had a clear purpose. Gold represented the purity and dignity of marriage, incense symbolized spiritual elevation, and myrrh signified preparation for life's trials. These gifts not only sealed their union but also marked the couple's commitment to God and each other. Before the marriage, Adam and Eve were instructed to fast and pray for 40 days and 40 nights. This period of purification was essential for them to unite in a sacred act considered immaculate by the Creator. This practice preceding marriage highlights the importance of spiritual preparation and pure intention when forming such an important alliance. After this period of prayer and fasting, the angels instructed Adam to present Eve with the gold as a symbol of his commitment. The gesture was simple yet laden with meaning. By following divine instructions, Adam demonstrated his submission to the Creator's will and his desire to live in harmony with Eve, even in a world filled with challenges. This marriage narrative goes beyond a simple historical or spiritual event. It reflects the importance of marriage as a divine institution meant to unite two people in a greater purpose. For Adam and Eve, their union was not only a practical necessity to repopulate the earth, but also an opportunity to rediscover communion with God through their love and partnership. This first marriage reminds us that even amid the consequences of sin, the Creator continues to guide humanity with compassion and purpose. Adam and Eve, despite their failures, were blessed with the chance to start anew, showing that redemption is always possible for those who seek to live in alliance with God. The birth of Adam and Eve's first children is a significant milestone in the books of Adam and Eve, representing humanity's continuity after the fall. Eve gave birth to Cain and his twin sister Luluwa amidst great suffering, a reflection of the consequences of original sin. This moment brought joy but also foreshadowed the challenges and tragedies that would mark human history. Cain, whose name means hater, exhibited signs of restlessness even in his mother's womb. It's interesting how, from the beginning of human history, internal conflict was already present. It reminds us that our struggles begin within ourselves, doesn't it? Meanwhile, Luluwa, described as extraordinarily beautiful, became a source of discord from the start. The bond between the twins was complex, and their contrasting personalities reflected the internal conflicts that would later become central to the narrative. Even in their early days, the tension in Cain's relationship with others was evident. Later, Eve gave birth to another set of twins, Abel and his sister Aklima. Abel is depicted as gentle and obedient, in stark contrast to Cain, who was described as hard-hearted and disobedient. This duality between the brothers set the stage for humanity's first great conflict. The tension between Cain and Abel was not just the result of their temperamental differences, but also decisions made by Adam and Eve regarding their future marriages. The division arose when Adam and Eve decided that Cain should marry Aklima and Abel should marry Luluwa. This decision generated resentment in Cain, who desired Luluwa, his twin sister, because of her beauty. Cain's dissatisfaction with his parents' choice fueled his anger, culminating in Abel's murder. This tragedy was not only the first homicide, but also a manifestation of sin's consequences on humanity. The birth and interactions of Adam and Eve's first children illustrate the complexity of human relationships from the very beginning. Although they were the offspring of a couple created directly by the Creator, they were not immune to the challenges of coexistence, envy, and desire. These internal and external conflicts resonate to this day, showing how Cain and Abel's legacy remains relevant for understanding human nature. This part of the story also highlights Eve's vulnerability, who faced both the physical pain of childbirth and the emotional loss of her son Abel. Her experience reminds us that even amid pain and suffering, faith and perseverance can help us overcome life's trials. Despite the tragedies, Adam and Eve continued to fulfill their role as humanity's progenitors, always seeking divine guidance and redemption. The murder of Abel by his brother Cain is one of the most well-known tragedies of biblical history, and in the books of Adam and Eve, this narrative gains new details and meanings. Consumed by jealousy and anger, Cain lured Abel into the field under the pretext of conversation. There, he attacked him cruelly, becoming the first murderer in human history. This act marked the loss of humanity's innocence on an even deeper level. Cain's anger was fueled by various factors, from dissatisfaction with his partner's choice to envy of Abel's acceptance by the Creator. When Adam and Eve made offerings to the Creator on behalf of their children, Abel's offering, made sincerely, was accepted, while Cain's was rejected. This event intensified Cain's rage, leading him to act impulsively and violently against his brother. After the murder, Cain was confronted by the Creator, who asked him where his brother was. Cain's famous response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" reveals his attempt to evade responsibility. However, the Creator exposed his sin, condemning him to wander the earth as a fugitive and marking him so that no one would kill him. This mark symbolized both punishment and protection, showcasing justice balanced with divine mercy. Abel's death brought great sorrow to Adam and Eve, who deeply mourned the loss of their righteous son. Their mourning is described in detail in the books of Adam and Eve, revealing the intensity of their grief and their search for comfort in the Creator. For Eve, Abel's death was a cruel reminder of the consequences of original sin, and her anguish resonated through prayers and fasting. Conversely, Cain also suffered the consequences of his actions. Although divinely protected, he was condemned to live in isolation, away from his family and the Creator. His life became a testament to the consequences of envy and hatred, serving as a warning for future generations. Cain and Abel's tragedy reflects the dangers of letting negative feelings grow unchecked. This narrative teaches us that while sin brings pain and division, there is also room for redemption and learning. Cain and Abel's story is a powerful warning about the impact of our choices and the importance of cultivating faith and self-control. It reminds us that even in the darkest moments, the Creator continues to offer opportunities for transformation and reconciliation. The book of Genesis in the Bible and the books of Adam and Eve, considered apocryphal, address humanity's creation and fall in distinct ways. While both share the essence of the narrative, the divine creation of man, Eden, temptation, and expulsion, their approaches and details vary significantly. Genesis presents a more concise and symbolic account, while the books of Adam and Eve provide a description rich in emotional and spiritual details, with an emphasis on repentance and post-fall challenges. In Genesis, creation is described as an orderly process in which God creates the world in 6 days, culminating in humanity's creation in His image. Adam and Eve are placed in the Garden of Eden to care for it, with a single prohibition: not to eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The focus is on divine authority and the direct consequence of disobedience, emphasizing God's justice. In contrast, the books of Adam and Eve delve deeper into the emotions and events following the expulsion from Eden. Adam and Eve face sadness, hunger, and repentance, as well as Satan's constant temptations. The fall is portrayed not merely as an act of disobedience, but as the beginning of a spiritual journey of struggle and learning. Satan's presence as an active and manipulative figure adds a more dramatic dimension to the account. Another striking difference is in the portrayal of Eve. In Genesis, she is highlighted as the first to be tempted by the serpent and is therefore often associated with the origin of sin. In the books of Adam and Eve, there is greater balance in the blame between the two. Adam is shown as an equally vulnerable partner, and the text pays more attention to the shared suffering of the couple after the fall. The books of Adam and Eve also offer an expanded vision of the Garden of Eden, describing it richly as a pre-existent paradise representing the fullness of divine communion. These texts explore how losing this paradise deeply affected Adam and Eve's perception of themselves and God, something Genesis only implicitly suggests. Despite these differences, both texts converge on central messages: the Creator's power, human fragility, and the need for redemption. The two narratives, though distinct in tone and content, continue to inspire profound reflections on the human condition, free will, and the relationship with the divine. The way good and evil are presented in Genesis and the books of Adam and Eve reflects the theological diversity between the texts. In Genesis, good and evil are symbolized by the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, whose fruit was forbidden by God. Eating the forbidden fruit is a choice that triggers humanity's moral and spiritual consequences. Good is associated with obedience and divine order, while evil is linked to disobedience and rebellion. In the books of Adam and Eve, this vision is expanded. Good and evil are not merely symbolic concepts, but active forces manifesting in Adam and Eve's lives. Satan plays a larger role, appearing as an agent of evil who constantly tries to distance the couple from the Creator. He deceives, manipulates, and places obstacles in their path, symbolizing the temptations we face throughout life. Another significant element is how good is presented as a continuous effort. In the books of Adam and Eve, good is not merely a consequence of obedience, but the result of sincere prayers, fasting, and repentance. Adam and Eve are shown as active participants in their quest for reconciliation with God, conveying a message of hope and perseverance. Evil, in turn, is described as persistent and multifaceted. The initial fall in Eden was only the beginning of a continuous battle against Satan's temptations and deceptions. This more detailed approach reflects the spiritual struggle that every human being faces daily, making the narrative more accessible and human. The interaction between good and evil in the books of Adam and Eve also highlights divine mercy. Even after sin, God continues to protect and guide Adam and Eve, demonstrating that good always has the final word. This contrasts with Genesis's more straightforward view, where Eden's expulsion is the narrative endpoint of the fall. These differences between the two traditions do not diminish the relevance of either, but instead enrich them. Each offers a unique perspective on the role of good and evil in human experience, inviting readers to reflect on their choices and responsibilities in the world. Both Genesis and the books of Adam and Eve reflect on humanity's role in creation, but do so in distinct ways. In Genesis, Adam and Eve are presented as the crown of creation, made in God's image and tasked with caring for Eden. Their position is one of authority but also responsibility, emphasizing the balance between freedom and obedience. In the books of Adam and Eve, humanity's role is explored in greater depth, particularly after the fall. Adam and Eve are depicted as representatives of all humanity, facing the challenges of a world reflecting the consequences of sin. Their journey is a metaphor for the spiritual struggle we all experience, seeking reconciliation with God while facing life's temptations and trials. The narrative also highlights humanity's role as agents of transformation. Even outside Eden, Adam and Eve continue to interact with the Creator through prayers and sacrifices. This active relationship shows that humanity is not passive in creation, but a co-participant in the divine story. Each act of repentance and faith reinforces humanity's role as God's partner in building a better world. The two texts differently address humanity's connection with the divine. While Genesis emphasizes the sanctity of the original creation and the loss of this communion through sin, the books of Adam and Eve emphasize the gradual restoration of this connection. Even in a fallen state, Adam and Eve can experience God's presence and care, showing that redemption is always possible. Another important point in the books of Adam and Eve is how they explore human fragility in a more emotional way. Adam and Eve's pain, repentance, and efforts to find redemption show that humanity has a crucial role in the divine plan, not only as guardians of creation but also as seekers of spiritual truth. These narratives invite us to reflect on our own relationship with the Creator and our responsibilities in the world. Whether through caring for creation or the constant struggle against our weaknesses, humanity's role is inseparable from the pursuit of meaning and redemption. Both traditions remind us that despite our failures, divine grace is always within reach. The recently discovered biblical fragments and the books of Adam and Eve invite us to look beyond Genesis's traditional account. They expand our understanding of the divine purpose, showing that even amid the fall, there is room for redemption and learning. These stories reflect not only the past but also the spiritual struggles we all face. Use the comments to discuss your insights, and don't forget to like and subscribe to help spread the truth. And remember, the quest for spiritual truth is infinite, and we continue walking this path together. See you next time. If you've made it this far, it's because something in this message touched your soul. But there's still more to uncover. Click on the next videos to continue this spiritual journey. Share your thoughts in the comments, like to support this mission, and subscribe so you don't miss the teachings and revelations yet to come. But remember, once you seek the truth, you'll never see the world the same way again.